all it takes is something 6 inches or a foot tall, 8 inches tall for that bass to slide up behind and get behind that. Again, if it's hard cover. Now, grass is going to lay it over. It doesn't do anything. But rock, wood, dock post, anything like that, it does not take much to be enough of an eddy for those bass to get behind. A big thing with hard cover is, again, if you've got water this deep right against the bank where the current's hitting, so you've got a foot, you've got 18 inches, right where that water's hitting really, really hard, your strike zone oftentimes with that type of cover is this close to the bank. So many people will be either sitting the boat out too far, making a cast up there towards the bank. Their bait is in the strike zone about this much of their cast. Okay, so having your boat positioned up there really tight to that cover to where you can bring your bait, within a foot of the bank, a foot of that hard shoreline, a foot of whatever's breaking the current. The majority of your retrieve, even half of your retrieve, your bait is just in the strike zone for so much longer than it is if you're sitting out, making those casts, even at a 45. Like, I don't even want to sit at a 45 most of the time. I want to get up there where my boat's touching the bank and I'm bringing my whole cast right down the edge of the bank. So that's a big thing that I see in current in any situation. A lot of people make that mistake. Is sitting out, throwing too far into the bank, getting up there tight to it is definitely a big part. So the cast was if I'm ever allowing the current. The question was if I'm ever allowing the current to kind of manipulate my cast, and I do in a couple different ways. So here's a couple to think of. One, if I'm using a floating bait of any kind, okay, whether that's a crankbait, it's a topwater, a popper, a walking bait, something like that, but a floating bait. And I mean, like it's the bait, but I just cannot skip it into where I want it. I can't, get it to where I want it. An easy thing to do, kind of the cheat code for this, is you throw it upstream of where you want it, and then you let the current carry it into where you want that bait to be. Then you can begin your retrieve. So that's one way to do it. But the other way is with a weightless bait, like a wacky worm or something like that. That's a big part of how you catch fish with that are set up in current or, kind of in a small eddy. I'm not going to use a weightless bait in super fast current. It's never going to get to the fish. It's never going to get to the strike zone. But in that slow to moderate type current, and I caught some fish doing this at the Potomac River, fish that I could visually see. Well, the current's moving, the fish is facing into the current's moving past it. If I drop that weightless bait right here, by the time it gets down to the fish, it's going to already be past it, okay? That fish, I don't want that fish to have to turn around to come chase my bait. That's unnatural, and my chance of actually getting that fish to bite is way less. So if the fish is sitting like this, current's coming this way, I want to drop my bait far enough over here in front of it that it has time to get down to that fish's level before the fish ever actually sees it, or kind of as it's entering its ability to see it. So that was a big thing that I did up there in kind of drifting that bait, using the current to allow that bait to carry, or to carry my bait to that fish. That was a big part of it, because had I caught some fish on a jig doing that a little bit, and I could drop it closer to them, but I truly got more of those fish to commit and bite that wacky worm, when I was doing that and actually able to see them. But if I had to drop it far enough out in front of them that the bait had time to drift down and get down in kind of eye level or even to the bottom, and then because that strike zone, that if a fish can pin it to the bottom, that's a better strike zone than it just being up in the water column. And, if they're really active and really aggressive, sure, they'll come up and eat it. But getting it down on the bottom in front of that fish was, I don't want to say a guaranteed bite, but it got more of them to bite than just letting it drift out in front of their face. Question was, how fast can you see fish really move from, the mouth of a creek to move into the very back of it, especially when you get, get the kind of heat wave and that kind of stuff that we had up there at the Potomac. I think it happens way, way faster, and can happen way, way faster than we give it credit for. And I feel like this was one of the first times that I truly saw that happen in person. Because there were a lot of fish back there in the back of the creek, where I was fishing. There was a lot of fish back there in practice, but I can't for the life of me think that there were that many back there, to start with, compared to what there ended up being throughout the course of the tournament. So, bass have a head and they have a tail. and they can take off swimming and really cover a lot of ground if the conditions dictate it. And they can swim in or they can swim out equally as fast. I certainly feel like those fish can in 24 hours can make a big move if the conditions desire set that up for them to do that. So I try not to doubt them anymore, because it's amazing how much they'll move around on you. And there's most of our fisheries have so many fish in so many different places going on, and the Potomac it's a very prolific fishery, and it's got a lot of fish in it right now. So am I going to say that the fish I was catching were out in Belmont Bay 2 days before? I have no idea. Could they have been? Yeah. Could all those bass have been in the marina there at the mouth of Neabsco on day one? Possibly. I don't. It'd be neat to have all that information, but there's no doubt that in 24 to 48 hours, in my opinion, if conditions are set up right, bass can move a long ways. And I do feel like I've seen that more on a cold front, where it can push them out of certain places. But yeah, no doubt they can move. They can move pretty drastically, pretty quickly. Okay. All right. Thanks for watching. Okay. Okay. All right. I appreciate y'all watching this on Bass University. And creek fishing, fishing those summertime inflows is something that I love to do. I'm very passionate about, and hopefully this will make you all a better summertime fisherman. Get out there and get shallow. Don't be worried about it. Take your flip-flops off. Get in the water if you get stuck. Push your boat out and come on back. But yeah, get up there and get shallow. I think you'll like it.